Yo guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of Premier League Talk, and we have had a mental weekend in the Premier League. Crazy results up and down the table, some hugely significant ones as well, and some that could potentially be deciding for some clubs' seasons. As usual, we're just going to read through the list of the results, and then I'm going to pick out 3 games to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the Arsenal-Southampton game. Obviously, they drew 3-3. We'll start there on Friday night because I talked about them in my post-match reaction and also made a video on the Premier League final, which is coming up on Wednesday night, Manchester City versus Arsenal. So you can hear my thoughts about that game on those 2 videos. So I recommend you go and watch that if you want to hear my views on that one. But yeah, they drew 3-3 at the Emirates. We then move on to Saturday. Fulham managed to sneak a 2-1 win against Leeds. They went 2-0 up. Leeds equalised in the 82nd minute, so it was a shaky final 8 minutes. Really close game. Unlucky for Leeds. I do fear for them now at the moment. It's not looking good. Fulham, on the other hand, this is great. It's what they need to start their European push. Hopefully they can get it. Brentford then drew 1-0 with Aston Villa. Aston Villa in 6th, Brentford in 9th. Big game for both sides. Points even. I mean, fair play. Palace 0, Everton 0. Pretty bog standard result. I mean, what else to expect? Fair play to both sides. Leicester 2, Wolves 1. We're going to come back to that game. Liverpool then won a thriller against Nottingham Forest. 3-2 at Anfield. What a game that was. I mean, fair play to Forest. Go to Anfield and score 2 goals. Liverpool just came out on top though, and I think it was probably deserved. Great game for the neutral though. And then Sunday, we're going to talk about both games here. Bournemouth lost 4-0 to West Ham at home. Crazy goal fest on the South Coast. What a performance from the Hammers. And then finally, Newcastle 6, Spurs 1. We'll come back to that one last. First, though, I want to talk about Bournemouth versus West Ham. What a game that was at the Vitality Stadium. We had the 14th team. Bournemouth in 14th, West Ham in 15th at the start of the game. It's now reversed. West Ham up into 13th. Massive win for the Hammers. I mean, they drew against Arsenal. They got a win at Fulham. They've turned their fortunes around. They really have. Moyes is seeming it's coming good at West Ham at just the right time. Rice got a goal. Antonio, Paqueta, Pablo Fornals. It was great game for the Hammers. Bournemouth, I think this puts them back into the relegation fight. I really do. It's a shame because I think they've had a great season, to be honest, but they're right back in there now. A win here or a point, I think they could have been pulling away a bit more, but I think they're right back in there. I don't think they will go down, but I think it's going to be very close. But yeah, 4-0 at home to a relegation rival, it doesn't look great. West Ham, on the other hand, up into 13th, though, as I said. Great result for them. I think that really gives them daylight between themselves and the bottom 3. They should stay up now. I'm expecting them to stay up. I also expect them to win the Conference League. They beat Genk on Thursday night to go through to the semi-final. So we wait to see who they play there. But I think they could win the Conference League, and that would be a great season for West Ham to avoid the drop. Obviously, it hasn't been a great season because they would have been expected to qualify for Europa League based off their standards of last season. But yeah, I think seeing as how their season's gone, if they could avoid the drop and win the Europa League, I think that West Ham fans would take that. I really do think so. But yeah, that was a cracking game on the South Coast, Bournemouth versus West Ham. Then I want to talk about Leicester versus Wolves. Now, Leicester could have been bottom going into the weekend. They were saved by Arsenal coming back against Southampton. But they managed to pull themselves out of the relegation zone. That's a 2-1 win. Kelechi Iheanacho and Timothy Castagne scoring in reply to Matthias Cunha's opener for Wolves. Look, Leicester, we all know they haven't had the greatest season. They've sacked Brendan Rodgers. They've got an interim and Dean Smith in place at the moment. They should avoid the drop as well. They've got too many good players. And I know there's this phrase, you're never too good to go down. But in Leicester's case, I feel like there sort of is. You think Vardy, Maddison, Iheanacho, Ndidi, Faze, Ricardo Pereira, James Justin, Yuri Tielemans. They've got a great team. Harvey Barnes, Tete, they've got a great team. It would be a real shame to see them go down. And obviously, we've still got 6 games left to play. It will be really interesting to see how they end up. They're not going to get top half. I think that's already confirmed. But this fact that they were even in the relegation zone really surprised me. If you had said to me at the start of the season, I would have had Leicester down for maybe even a top 10 finish. But it is what it is. And they needed those 3 points. They really did. Wolves, on the other hand, this drops them quite far down the table. They were sitting comfortable in 15th. They now find themselves sitting in... They were finding themselves sitting in 13th. They now find themselves in 14th. And they played 1 game more than West Ham, who are above them, and they're level on points for them. Wolves, I think they'll be fine. I don't think they're going to go down. I think they'll finish like mid to top half of the bottom table, of the bottom half. Yeah, it just didn't go well for them. Obviously, Inacho's goal was a penalty. Castagna then scored later on in the game. Cunha gave Wolves the lead. Yeah, I don't think that's much to worry. Lopetegui has done wonders considering the start they made under Lage at the start of the season, but I think Wolves will be fine. There's no worry there. There really is no worry there. So what a game that was at the King Power, though. I mean, 2-1, great game for the Thriller and great for the Foxes fans. I mean, obviously it hasn't been a great run for them, so to get those 3 points were massive. Finally, though, Newcastle 6, Spurs 1. Now, I want to talk about both teams here in quite a bit of depth. 5-0 after 20 minutes. We'll start with Newcastle. I thought ruthless, properly ruthless. This game really confirmed their place in the top 4 for me. I can't see Spurs no, there's no way Spurs are going to catch them or Man United now. I can't see it. This has really been a culmination of everything they've been playing towards this season. I mean, Carabao Cup final, yes, they lost there. Great performances in the league. They've beaten Liverpool. Not Liverpool. They've drawn with City at home. They've beaten Manchester United at home. They've just bollocked Tottenham at St James's Park. Isaac has been a class signing. Honestly, value for money for sure. He didn't start off the best, but he's really coming into form at the right time. He looks like a quality player. Almiron's been playing well. Guimaraes, I actually think underrated player for Newcastle this season. I really do think Sean Longstaff has been really influential. And Joe Willock as well. What a pass that was for one of Isaac's goals. Incredible. They just have players really pulling their weight, and it's been great season for Newcastle. I really do think this is them in the top 4 now, and maybe even a push for, they can sign the right players next season in the summer. I really think that could be a push for the title. It's going to be a really, really interesting title race next season. I cannot wait for that, but we'll get to that into my predictions in the summer when that comes around to it. Spurs, on the other hand, they're in a heap of problems. 6-1 defeat, 5-0 down at home. First thing I have to say is I think Stellini might have to go. The problem is I don't know who they're going to get in, and Stellini is only an interim manager. There's obviously been talks linking them with Nagelsmann, Pochettino, Enrique, managers like that. They're not going to attract anyone like that. I mean, when they just get bollocked 6-1 by a top 4 rival, never going to happen. Poch looks like he's going to go back to Chelsea now anyway. So I think Stellini needs to go, but the problem is I don't know who they'd get in to replace him, and they need a decent manager because they need someone to build a project around. None of this going for a Mourinho or Conte. You need to build a manager who knows how to build a project and not just to win now, which is kind of what I feel Daniel Levy's been going for the past few years. I also think they need to get rid of the deadwood, such as Lloris, Emerson, Royale. I think Dyer has to go, to be honest. I think he's over it. Kane, I think, is going to leave, so you're going to have to find a replacement for him. It will be interesting to see what happens with Son. Kulusevski, I don't think will want to renew his loan, so he's going to go back to Juventus. Spurs are in a whole heap of problems. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how they finish them. They might not even get Europa League. I think Aston Villa and maybe even Liverpool or Brighton might leapfrog them. It's going to be really interesting to see that fight. There's so many battles up and down the table. It's going to be really, really cool to see. But yeah, Spurs, they're in a whole heap of trouble. That was a shocking performance, though. From minute 1, they just got absolutely bossed. But fair play to Newcastle. Anyway, this has been Premier League Talk, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We have got a massive week coming up in the Premier League, culminating in the Premier League final on Wednesday night, so make sure you keep your eye on that one. Well, the Premier League final, as Pep Guardiola has called it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. See ya.